Hey guys, Dave recently had the opportunity to visit NASA's Johnson Space Center in Houston, Texas for the Martian Blu-ray release, where he spoke to producer Aditya Sood and astronaut Dr. Feustal about whether or not everything we see in the movie is real or possible, where they'd like to travel to in space, and more. Check it out.
So The Martian has received a lot of acclaim for its amount of, scientific fact. I'd like to kind of talk to you about, fact versus fiction, and then sort of the process of how you went about deciding, like, if we stick with this, it is fact, but it might not be quite as exciting as maybe fictionalizing a little bit. So could you give us some examples, maybe?
So you want me to point out all of the factual inaccuracies of our... No.
Yeah, exactly. If you could, just lay it on the line, yeah.
I mean, look, I think wherever possible, we wanted to be as factually accurate as we could. And, and I think for the most part, certainly the spirit of it succeeds. I think there's some moments, Andy himself points out, the dust storm at the beginning, just the air pressure on Mars, and and it wouldn't quite have the same effect.
I think the book author and the producers and the writer of the script did a good job of really looking at the information that was available to them to base the book on. And Andy Weir has said a number of times that he wanted it to be scientifically accurate, so he went off and did research to make sure that the basis of the movie was like that. If you compare it to a movie like Gravity, where there was some liberties taken with the physics of how space travel and orbital dynamics work, in Gravity they did a pretty good job of trying to look for the facts and put them in the movie. You can look at the end of the movie where there's some of the scenes where he's leaving the surface of the planet and some of the dynamics there. Those are challenging events and fraught with peril, and NASA certainly wouldn't approach a problem, or would probably try not to approach a problem that way, but they pulled it off for the book and the movie, and it kind of works.
If you happen to find yourself in Mark Watney's shoes, how do you think you'd do?
Not nearly as well.
Okay.
I mean, you like to think that you would, but he's a pretty remarkable guy.
In the movie and in the book, you kind of got the feel that things were made up as they went along, just trying to figure out how to survive. I think for a NASA mission, we do everything with belts and suspenders. We always have contingency plans. We would have plans in place that if somebody got left behind, there'd be some survival equipment, some way to make communication, some redundant backup system without going to find, one of the rovers that was left behind, to try to make comm with Earth. So I'd like to think that if we, when we mount a mission to Mars, we'll have some of that training in place, some of those systems in place to help us survive a scenario like that without having to make it up as we go along.
What role do you think that entertainment like The Martian has to play in educating, the future astronauts of NASA?
I think what we see, and this is true in my life, I grew up watching science fiction movies and science fiction TV shows and cartoons, and those things inspired me about space exploration. I mean, those were the things that kind of allowed my imagination to be sparked and run wild and think about what opportunities I could have in space. And so I think movies like The Martian, Gravity, Interstellar, all these things just help to promote that and get young individuals excited about what their future could be. And it doesn't even have to be space exploration. It can be whatever it is that goal, but to know that nothing's really out of reach and that they should pursue whatever goal it is they have set for themselves.
I think it's a wonderful thing when you can accomplish both, being really entertaining and also really informative. I don't think you ever you never want to trade the first for the latter, just in terms of, at least when you're making movies. I mean, I think there are other places where you can, just try to be informative in a very entertaining way. But look, to me, this is the best of both worlds. It was a movie that can be a tribute to the hard work that scientists and engineers do, and it can also be a really, really thrilling ride for an audience who may not know what those guys do, but one of the things I think that's great about the movie is that they're able to believe that those guys know what they're doing, and that's very compelling to watch.
The Martian is due out on DVD and Blu-ray on January 12, 2016. If you'd rather not wait until then to catch the movie again, it'll also be available on digital HD on December 22nd. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget, hit the subscribe button to keep up with everything we've got going down here on Collider.